I know you have a race coming this weekend, right?
I do. Yes. Yep,
Which is,
definitely.
and that's the Laurel
Laurel Highlands Ultra,
70.4 miles. Is that right?
70.5.
74. I was
That's
close, point 0.1 off, and then
and
ultra
a
running is
half.
like point 0.1 is like, that's nothing,
I
right?
know, round it up.
And
It used
so
to be
just to kind of
longer.
give everybody, and I don't want to just steal your thunder, but so that race is kind of a redemption race for you, and we'll get into that here in a moment. The last time that you attempted it was several years ago. You DNF'd, so you're coming back out with more purpose and just a whole different plan. You just recently finished the Glacier Ridge Trail Ultra, which you've completed twice, and you just set a PR on that. And
Mhm.
so let's just jump into first of all, why did you start running in ultras? And what is it that you enjoy most about it? And what do you not enjoy most about it? And we'll start with that. You got to have the good and the bad, right?
I
Because
know.
everybody loves certain things and there's that love-hate relationship, right?
Right. Yeah. Okay. So, I mean, I got into ultra running because road running just ended up not being a favorite thing. Once I discovered trail running, it was like goodbye road, you know? I never went back and I found out like I discovered ultra running through Badwater 135. What's that? Run on the Sun or something that the old documentary about
Yes.
Badwater 135, and that's what got me into this. More. It's a very hardcore sport, right? And that actually kind of brings me to the point of like it's hard on the body. That's probably what I like the least about it is that the post-race recovery. I mean, not only does it take a hot minute to recover from that, but it's like painful because I've lost toenails. I've had blisters under my toenails. Like I've had so many like just pains and aches for like 2 days. Like luckily the longer I've done it, the faster recovery's gotten. But like just the pain sometimes after doing some of these and if you like injure yourself during a race too, then it's like, oh, okay, it's gonna take a little bit longer to recover from that. But I would say like that's my least favorite thing. But like at the same time, I'm willing to put myself in that situation where I'm going to be like really pushing my body. And that's part of what is a lot of fun. It's like that, how far can I go? How fast can I go? Can I like have a better strategy? Can I like all these different things and that kind of preparation all starts in our training and then we apply it to our races. So that's kind of like that's my favorite thing, my least favorite thing, and I'm just gonna keep building my running resume until I get into Badwater 135, specifically the Ultra Cup, because I want to do all three of the Badwater races in 1 year. So, yeah.
That is a lot. And, like you said, as an athlete, you're always wanting to make yourself better, right? It's harder to get that. I think it's probably harder to try to, hey, I'm going to go for a PR. It's like because as we know, ultras are such a long distance. It's really hard to just zero in and like, man, I'm just going to go and crush this race, right? Because there's so many elements, so many variables. No race is the same, right? You could go out. I know you went out and you ran some of those same trails, but it's like the trails are ever changing. You've got erosion, you've got, nature takes its course, right? You might have a tree fall down somewhere. It's never the same course. You're never the same shape. There's always something different. I mean, just like with my training, I can go run the same course or the same route every single day, and it's never the same, right? Because it's like the temperature is different. There's more humidity. There's more. um, dew point, whatever it might be, or I didn't eat good, or I don't feel good, or my shoes are too tight, or something, and it's hard, right? Because as athletes, you want to make yourself better. That's kind of one of the things that pushes us. Um, Now, for somebody that's running 5Ks or 10Ks or half marathons, which that's what I focused on for the longest time, it's easier in the sense, I say easier. Nothing's easy about racing, but it's easier to go and push yourself to get those PRs, to get those goals that you're looking for, right? Because the shorter distance, you have shorter recovery, you've got quicker turnaround. And if you're running 5Ks and 10Ks, there was a period in my life, it's been a while back, but I was running a race every weekend,
Mhm.
right? At those shorter distances, you can do that. And I know people that go out and run ultras every weekend for multiple weeks on end. I don't really know how.
Right.
um,
Yeah.
Other than, and I know you do a lot of, you've done counseling and things like that. That's your background, and you've helped runners with their mental preparedness and things of that nature. People think you're crazy when you're an ultra runner, anyways. But
Mhm.
for the people I know personally and people that I've watched, I'm like, I don't know how they go out and do it week in, week out, because I know, just like you mentioned, the recovery and the abuse that your body takes from a long run,
Yeah.
um, it's never the same, right? It can get easier because, like, for the very first marathon I ever ran, my body, it was horrible, right? It was like, I was like, I'm never running this distance again. And then that 100 miler that I completed, I'm like, I'm in pain. I hurt. I hurt. But I will say, like you said, it does get easier. The recovery tends to get a little quicker. And you learn to adapt and adjust with the pain. Because it's like the very first time I went out and tried 100, I was like, I am hurting in ways I never knew I could hurt. And my feet
Mhm.
were on fire and my toes, I was like, this doesn't feel good, right? My toes were burning because I was kicking rocks, literally. And then I experienced that same pain again at another 100, the only one I ever completed. And I felt that pain come back on. And then that's where you say, okay, you can stop now where you're in complete and utter pain and discomfort. And I can stop now and get a DNF, or I can keep pushing because here's the thing, that pain, once you get to that pain point in those races, the pain doesn't go away and it's not going to go away for several days or maybe a week or whatever, right? You've gotten to that point where you're going to hurt when you're done,
Mhm. Yeah.
regardless whether you stop now or you finish the race. The pain is not probably going to get much worse. If I
Right.
stop, that pain is going to hurt. And then I'm also going to be mentally hurt for not finishing the race and beating myself up, right? Even though there's a lot of lessons to learn in a DNF, it beats you up. And I've seen a lot of runners beat themselves up because it's like, I suck. What did I do wrong this time? And it's not necessarily always the runner's fault. There are things that happen that are out of our control. But then there's things that are in within our control with like our mental preparedness and our training and other things like your hydration and your nutrition. And so that's where I wanted to kind of dive into where you are focused on your mental aspect. I know you do a pre-race questionnaire,
Mhm.
and forgive me, I told you I had not done the one that you sent me. I still have not done it yet. Well, I will. You do a
Yeah.
pre-race and a post-race, which I think is great. And it reminds me of when we did our stuff in cross country in college, is we would write down our goals and kind of just that high level. This is what I want to get out of the race, right? These are my goals. And this is how I'm feeling. This is what I'm doing, et cetera, et cetera. And then post race, this is how I'm feeling, right? You write some thoughts down at first so you don't forget, and then maybe come back and digest a little bit further once you've recovered some, and then compare. Um, Take us a little bit through what you do to prepare yourself mentally and what you do with some of your athletes to help them prep for a race.
Yeah. I always start with their race goal and their whys. why they run, why they picked that particular race, because that's usually going to be some sort of tool that we use later on. And it might be something they use on race day. It's just something that keeps them going. And honestly, even if they're doing it because it's like a really cool buckle at the end, or they want to see their loved ones or something, like it might sound cheesy, but I don't care. If that's what motivates you, then use that. And I think like that's a really good place to start. So really leaning into the whys of, why you're doing it, why you picked that particular thing. A lot of times I hear the answer is like, "Oh, I just want to see how far I can go." And
That's
I've
fair.
yeah, yeah, and I've done that. Like you want to find out what happens and you want to find out if you can conquer that. Like you're talking about, like there's pain and there's highs and lows, and the pains can come and go in different ways throughout a race. And I think mentally and maybe a little bit physically, we can do some things to help manage that or to just grind through it. You know that the pain is only going to be temporary, though intense, and it depends on how hard you're pushing your body. If you're there to compete, it's probably going to be pretty intense. But so that and looking at the goals, I like to have people, and I do this for myself too, depending on the race distance, I'll have like goal A, B, and C. So if I'm doing a 50 miler, I might only have goal A and B. And if I'm doing a 100 miler, I might have A, B, and C. So A is going to be like my dream goal, what I'm like busting my butt in my training and all of this like dialing in prep work to get this goal. And that's where my main focus is. So it could be a time goal, a PR, a podium, whatever that is that you want to achieve. And then goal B would be probably like a step down. So maybe a slightly slower time goal, or, getting like something in your age group, like an age group award. And then goal C would be like, all right, this race
Just
is not
finish.
quite, this race is not quite going how I wanted it to go. So it's just to finish and to have fun now. But also I suggest to my clients like, okay, goal C, you also like don't forget about your nutrition and your fueling and like all of that kind of stuff while you're racing too, because even though your race isn't going so well, there's still other things that you can focus and improve on while you're out there.
Absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah.
hydration and nutrition, and I definitely want to reiterate it. Don't go into a race not trained for that stuff, right? It's like I've done it before and I've learned, and the time to make the mistakes is during your training, right? Test how you're going to do, because I've gone out before for, you know, even like a 10 miler, and all I took was one little water bottle, right? Not
Mhm.
advisable, but I also know what I'm capable of, right? You can push yourself if you've done it enough to be comfortable. Also, it's like, okay, well, if I needed to stop, I could have stopped at the local convenience store, right, to get a drink, but I pushed myself. But those are the things that you got to test, right? Your sweat test for the humidity, amount of humidity, how much. I'm a heavy sweater, sad but true. And it's like as I've gotten older, I sweat even more. So it's like, okay. That's where you weigh yourself before you run. You weigh yourself after you run, and you also measure how much you drink, right? And there's a formula for calculating all that. But it's like, especially when the humidity is high, it's like, okay, I'm going to be sweating a lot more. But when the humidity is lower, you're probably not going to have to hydrate as much. Make those mistakes during training so that you're not crashing and burning during the race and feeling sorry for yourself. It's a lot easier to feel sorry for yourself and run home with your tail between your legs during training because you're like, "Ah, I had a bad run today." Well, guess what? There's always tomorrow. And not to say there's not an always tomorrow when you're running a race, but that's where the difference is, right? Training doesn't generally cost you anything other than your pride and a little bit of time. A race, you've got skin in the game, and races are not cheap, right? Neither is the preparation, especially if you're traveling to go somewhere, right? So if you're traveling across country, you've got airfare, you've got hotels, you've got food. You want to be on top of your game to do that. But most importantly, like you said, you also want to have fun. I think a lot of us get caught up in, yes, we're very competitive. You don't want to forget why you're out there. The why is important, like you said. And as cheesy as it might be, who cares? Everybody's different. Everybody has a reason why they run. And if you want to just, I want to see how far I can push myself and I want to see what I can do, so be it. But as you become more of a developed runner, you start to refine that why. You start to be, and over time, your whys will change. For the most part, you might have a why that you focus on for your whole career. But as we, as individuals, as adults, as we grow through our life, as we experience different things, your why will probably change with you. As a, 18, 19, 20-year-old, I didn't really have a why other than I want to go kick their butt and I want to win a race, right?
Hmm.
That was my why. I want to go and run as fast as I can and I want to try to podium or place or be in the top 10 or whatever it might be. My goal in high school, I want to go to state. That was my goal. That was my why. I want to push myself and be the best competitor that I can. As a almost 50-year-old now, next week I'll hit that mark. My whys are different, Shan, because it's like I am more seasoned, I am more mature, I'm older, and I'm more cautious too, because my body is more, not to say my body is more frail, but I'm more mindful, right?
Hmm.
Because when you're young and free, you don't think about danger the same way as, hey, I'm an adult. I have insurance that I have to pay, and I don't want to make a visit to the ER, right? To nobody wants to have to pay the deductible or whatever for their policy. So you take different things into account. It just depends on the person. But like I said, the why generally will change based off of the race too. That can change, right? Because like for yourself, with your race coming up this weekend, you've ran that race before, you DNF. So I know that your why is I want to go out and finish it, first of all, but I
Hmm.
also want to be able to push myself and race in a way that I know based off of our previous conversation, you've changed your strategy on how you want to approach this race. And you used your last race as kind of a test for your pacing and for that running strategy. So that's the other thing, guys, is look at other races. It might be a shorter race. You can practice during a race, you can practice during training for your strategy to get yourself prepared. I could go out and run a 10K race and I could run it like I'm going to go run an ultra, which would be really slow. Okay, you're not going to win, but you practice those strategies. So take us through some of the strategy that you did, Shannon, um, to prepare yourself for the last race where you PR'd significantly. That was a good change from what you did. What was it, 2 years ago that you ran it last time?
Yeah, something like that. I think
And
it
I
was
think you cut off by what, 40 something minutes?
an hour and 11 minutes
Okay,
I cut off. Yeah, a big
which
chunk.
is significant time cut off. Take us through some of what you did to prepare yourself for that and to kind of what your mindset is with that race. Um, that's coming up this weekend, what your mindset was with that race in mind that you were running currently. So let's put it this way is a lot of people are all focused on the race that they're running right now, but your focus was, yes, I'm in that moment for
Mhm.
this race, but my focus is the next one, right?
Yeah, the
And
next.
sometimes we can get too focused on thinking ahead and it causes us problems, but you've got to really dial it in and focus.
Right. Yeah. I was actually overly focused at Glacier Ridge. And it was not as fun as it could have been. But then again, I was testing out some new pacing because over the past 2 years, that was my main focus, was focusing on my pacing. And then once I got, my pace increased. I was set up in a spot where I was like, okay, I can definitely go in and compete at this particular pace and then see, how it goes, see if I enjoy it. just feel and experience what that's like. That's always been something that interests me, but I had to work very hard over the years to get myself to this point. And my mindset kind of like developed with that. So like you said, I did like the once I cracked the code of the 100-mile distance. So like I did Mohican 100 in June of last year. And then 2 months after that, I actually did a 200K, Temptation 200K. And that was kind of like another thing for me was I wasn't there to compete. I just wanted to see how it went, what it felt like to actually run beyond 100 miles. And I found out and I ended up winning the race. I ended up competing in the last 16-ish miles, the last loop. Once I, found out there was someone behind me and potentially chasing me down, I was like, no. And then that kind of like helped set me up for going into Glacier Ridge. And then like so Laurel Highlands Ultra has a lot of fast people that come in and do this race and it's just incredible. So I was like, okay, I'm going to go and like I DNF'd it the last time. It was 2020. We weren't like we were allowed one crew member, no pacers. I rolled my ankle just bombing down a hill at mile 6 and it literally snapped. I sat down on a stump, cried, hobbled to the next aid station. They taped duct taped a bag of ice to my ankle and sent me on my way. And I did what I could until I missed the cutoff time at mile like 56. And I was pulled off. That's fine because I was hallucinating like crazy. And I still had another like half marathon to go, which I couldn't imagine doing it as much pain as I was in with my ankle. But that kind of like set me up to thinking, okay, it's gonna be not just like a redemption run, but it's gonna be like a big deal. I'm gonna go big. I'm gonna have fun doing it. And that backs us up to Glacier Ridge. So I was like, I'm gonna go into this course because I'm pretty familiar with it. And I've gotten more familiar with Laurel Highlands too, because I was there a few months ago training on it.
Right.
So
It
yeah,
definitely looks like a beautiful course, very technical, lots of elevation, right?
yes. Yeah. I forget how much, but it's
Enough.
good. It's all most of the elevations all in the first couple
So
months.
let me ask you, Shannon, because you have a lot more elevation than I do. I can go out and I can get some elevation, but while Oklahoma is pretty flat, there is a lot of areas that I can get elevation, but not to the extent of like what you can or my friend Aaron that's in upstate New York and he goes to Adirondacks and places like that. I'm what you would consider a flatlander compared to Pennsylvania and the Northeast or other
Mhm.
mountainous regions. What kind of training have you been doing? And I mean, yeah, of course, you're going to go out and you're going to get some elevation for sure. What are
Yeah.
some of your workouts like and what kind of mileage are you putting in for your training?
Okay. Well, first off, I don't even track my mileage. It's like there's some months it's literally like 100 miles and there are other months where it's like over 200 and closer to 300. So it's kind of it's all over the place. But I kind of just lean on my running coach, but I go ahead and I tell him exactly what I need to do in order to dial in to nail these goals. So like, both Glacier Ridge, well, all the trails here in Pennsylvania are technical for the most part, like, so I needed to improve my downhill running. And I was like, all right, so I need to do like this exercise and bam, plugged it into my training block, like once or twice a week after maybe some of my harder runs. There were days, particularly Wednesdays, I would do like a hard workout, whether with that's usually a speed work or hill repeats. And after I do the workout, the run, I would do strength training and it'd be legs. I would do like 4 leg routines, and it would focus on uphill running strength and downhill running strength, knees over toes and hips and, glutes, just dialing in like that, those focus, I like to think of certain workouts like it should be like a mini suffer fest. Like, yeah,
Hmm.
I do a lot of easy, slow running and it feels good. And that's my base. And that's how we build up from that to be able to do these harder workouts. So, I have these mini suffer fest runs that I do. And the one run, I have some nice big hills around me. I was able to get in about 1,000 feet of elevation gain in 4 miles.
Yeah, that's pretty significant.
Yeah.
I could probably get in 1,000 if I worked at it, right? Because I have to pick where I go. I could probably get 1,000 in, oh, probably with 8 miles, right? If
Hmm.
I'm really going into some of the trail areas, I can force myself to get that, but it's not easy because it's like, okay, when I go around, and unfortunately I have to run a lot of pavement, it's not as ideal as what I would like. It's usually between 200 and 400 feet of elevation gain for a 4 to 6 mile run, which is about average, but it's not flat by any means, but that's still, it's like, okay. So yeah, that Sufferfest, you want to train like what you want to race, right? And if you're training and you're just lollygagging and you're going easy, can't say you won't finish, but you're not going to be able to push yourself like you want. But also those strength training sessions, if you're not feeling it, you're probably not lifting hard enough or intense enough. Now, I can't say that when I go and I do there's different variations of strength training, right? Just like regular running. You can do a light workout just to maintain, and you can bump the weight up and you could go medium or you could go heavy, right? And as they say for runners, you want to lift heavy, but you don't have to lift heavy all the time.
Right.
Um, but yeah, you just got to be smart, and there's going to be those days where you're going to have to push yourself. You got to get out of your own way and just go and cut loose. And then there's the times it's like you say, you just dial it back and you take those easy runs and easy workouts. That's your base, and you build off of that. You keep the easy days easy and you keep the hard days hard. You don't want to go, and I'm the worst at it. If you go hard all the time, you're going to get hurt, you're going to get injured, you're going to burn out. And I tend to push myself too much, and I'm dealing with, the fact that I've pushed myself too hard, too much. And it's like, okay, you get these little niggles and these little pains, and you're dealing with it. And it's like, then it messes with you because you're mentally thinking about it, and it also messes with your training. And then you start having to take time off. And then it's like, now I miss my long run. And then everything just snowballs. Um, what, okay, so we got about 3 minutes left before I'm going to get kicked off of here. Uh, let me ask you, Shannon, what is it like? Because there's a difference between men and women runners. A lot of us have the same goals, but I've noticed, and maybe you can answer that question for us. What is it about women and ultra running? Because women seem, it's just some kind of amazing thing that I've seen more women go out and be able to handle more pain. And I think it might be the childbearing abilities, but you're able to go out in the pain cave, and it makes men look like a bunch of wussies because they can't handle it. And then the women are out there just crushing it.
Yeah, yeah. It's the pain cave and that ability to endure. And there's just something about it that I don't know, personally, I love that. And that's a little weird, but
Sick.
that's like I think that's what it is. Women just have that ability to go out there and to dig in.
Yeah, it's amazing to watch because I mean, you see some amazing women out there that are competing with the men that are just, I mean, Camille Herron from Oklahoma. She's one of the ones from our state, and I've talked to her many times. She goes out there and just obliterates competition, runs amazing, crazy miles, and it's like, how? and then Courtney DeWalter, another phenomenal woman runner. It's like they're going out setting these land records of miles covered in a 24, 48, 72 hour window. And I'm like, I can't even imagine, right? They're putting in more miles in their race than I probably have done in 6 months. So it's phenomenal to watch. It's encouraging to watch. I wish I could be like you when I grow up, but uh, but but Shannon, I wish you all the best coming up into this weekend. We'll be following along, and I'll be checking in with you after it's over to make sure it went well for you. But regardless, I know you're going to go out and you're going to do the best that you can, and I know you're ready for it mentally and physically. Is there anything that you want to share with the listeners before I let you go?
If anybody needs somebody to talk to, just in general about life stressors, or if you have any like race prep, anything like that, contact me. Let's see if we would be a good fit to work together. And you can learn more on my website, finishstrongermindsetcoaching.com.
And you can also find Shannon on YouTube where we'll post this. Also, b.short.run.ultra, be short run ultra on Instagram, and I'll tag and post all that information in the details. But Shannon, thanks for joining me tonight and just sharing a little bit about what you're doing and how you're getting there, and just to encourage other runners. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, Anthony.
Absolutely. All right, Shannon, before it cuts me off.